Very quick Bitcoin analysis here as Bitcoin once again retests the same trend line that it has broken out from on Wednesday's video. That is the declining trend line that Bitcoin has been riding ever since June of 2025. Now has retested it once and even twice, even reconnecting with that red 5 EMA. So we have a very, very obvious area to be looking at for a potential trap if it does indeed occur. But on the other side, it should be known that as long as Bitcoin is very specifically above that red 5 EMA or just basically above today's low, then upside is a more likely thing to be looking at. And in this case, we can see that there are several very, very compelling things in the background here. Looking at the weekly time frame for CME, which is going to be closing this weekly, by the way, at the end of today in 14 hours, 39 minutes, and 27 seconds and counting, we can see that Bitcoin is putting in a heroic weekly dildo as of right now. Now, of course, a lot of things can change. We got PCE coming out later today. I'm sure that that'll be used to move markets, but assuming that Bitcoin can close today above the red 5 EMA at exactly 105,351 on CME again, then I would be looking at this as another very objective signal that Bitcoin is ready to retest the highs, probably make new all-time highs. I would imagine at least in July. The reason why I say at least in July is because this month is almost over, so fair enough. Anyways, to compound on top of that, we can look at stochastic momentum here, which should be known on the 5-day time frame is actually going to flip back onto the upside. If Bitcoin can close above 107,750, which to be fair, I mean, that's not happening today or tomorrow. It is going to be happening on Sunday. But if Bitcoin does reclaim 107,750, you're going to have 5-day momentum moving to the upside, and weekly time frame will also be moving to the upside, I do believe, on CME. Actually, sorry, I do have to pull back on that statement. No, it'll not be moving up on CME. CME's pivot is 109,290 on the weekly here. But again, puts it into a position of power for next week. I imagine somewhere around this increasing trend line right here would be a natural area of interest. And between the most recent price action pivot, which was the high of May, and these numbers are coming in between about 112,400 on the lower end and about 113,350 on the upper end. That would just be kind of like a natural area of interest. Again, if Bitcoin can maintain above these very, very critical regions. But here's the thing, just like I said, there is a very obvious area to be declaring Bitcoin as well a trap, and in this situation, if Bitcoin comes back down and closes, especially below today's low, or anywhere below this trend line, which is also directly in alignment with the red 5 EMA at again 106,425, then we have a trap on our hands, and very likely Bitcoin, targets moves back down to 103, maybe 104, somewhere in that pocket there before the next sort of decent bounce. So opportunities on both sides as usual. I do want to again go over some of the meta signal setups over here because this one is still active and still valid. This is the 2-hour setup that fired off, I believe it was on Monday or Tuesday. This one fired off when Bitcoin was trading at $101,000. Now Bitcoin is, it's hit a high of like 108 and change, so not bad right there. Obviously, target number 1 and target number 2 have been hit with fine colors. Target number 3, however, is at that 109,250-ish number, which is super interesting because if you recall, that was the weekly pivot for CME. If Bitcoin were to hit that today, I mean, that just makes it super fucking obvious that coming into next week, we're probably going to see a real try towards new all-time highs. But keep in mind, target number 3 is relatively low probability compared to the other ones, at least 34% or just above 34% of the time. We do see that target, that third target hit. And again, that would be 109,250. All of the targets have been met. And if you are more of a I guess, price action trader, you'd probably be looking at this area right here and saying to yourself, well, maybe I just take some profit anyways because this is a good area. You've already seen a lot of the meat on that trade anyways. Now, I also want to remind myself that yes, on the other side, there was a short-term short setup that fired off for meta signals. This one has not hit any of the targets as of right now. Target number 1 is 106,058. Bitcoin yesterday did get down to about 106,300, but thus far, obviously eluding this one. And generally for the meta signal setups, target number 1 is generally quite high probability, above about 70% a lot of the time. In this particular setup, I do want to really focus on, target number 1's win rate here because it is much lower in general. So 64, about 40% of the time it does get hit. And in this case, I would say if Bitcoin is going to going to obviously break out, we're not going to see any of those targets hit. But I mean, in my opinion, that's fine. Like this one already had a pretty decent trade, more than $1,000 from high to low, or sorry, from the open to the low. So again, I just a quick sort of PSA for the meta signals. I like to look at these things as probabilistic setups, not as like direct telling you, hey, here's exactly what you need to do. Because at the end of the day, you know, I think if you just apply just even a small 1% of technical know-how, you're going to be able to make a lot more out of that. Again, a lot of the time you can get better entries, and in this case, I think that it would have been prudent to have taken the exit, you know, on a test of this region as well. You know, just a natural area of, you know, of bounce, and not so far away from that first target anyways. But hey, that's just me. You can do whatever the fuck you want to do. Of course, the links in the description below for meta signals. They'll give you all sorts of freebies at this point. And they have all sorts of crazy promos going on, and it's down there somewhere in the links. Anyways, my point is, as we move through this one, is that one, Bitcoin is setting up in a position of power to close out this week, but the week has not closed just yet. And two, we have a very obvious area for declaring Bitcoin an actual breakdown if it does occur. But until that happens, probabilities continue to be in favor of the upside based off of that Wednesday break. And if we go over here to the weekly for CME, we can also see that the weekly is almost about to reclaim. Yeah, it's about to reclaim the median here. The median on the HPDR is just above 106. Again, CME closing out the weekly later today in 14 hours and 33 minutes or so. So if it does close above both the median and also the 5 EMA, which will kind of happen simultaneously, I suppose, again, that opens up the doors for a real extension of this rally. The top side of the 30 at 2 level as of right now is $120,000. So that would be a natural area of pullback if Bitcoin were to get there. But again, must close above the median right here, and also that 5 EMA. They're going to be about one and the same anyways. And if it does, then, you know, next week, maybe the week after that, probably early in July, we do see a real try to new all-time highs here for Bitcoin. Other than that, I want to once again remind myself that I'm actually going to be stopping doing the weekend videos. I might upload some shorts here and there, but I'm going to stop doing them at least for now. And yeah. I'm not actually dead if you don't see videos on the weekend. It's been a good run for about 7.5 years almost now. But it's time for something new. And we'll leave it on that note. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully next time.